What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we are back with more Destiny 2 updates. I almost feel guilty posting this many Destiny updates, but it can't really be helped because every 5 minutes Bungie have something different to say, and indeed that includes Bungie changing direction on a handful of items. So following on from the TWID yesterday, they've got a few further updates, including how some of the changes they're making will affect the power climb, and specifically they highlight in better detail some of the things they're actually looking at, and how things like the Prime Engram drop rate should improve the power climb for all players, not just those in the last 50 power bands. So there's that. We also have a bunch of live game updates, Bungie removing modifiers. They've also removed the double drops from the portal this week. We'll explain why, but they outline some additional changes they're making for certain weapons and sandbox tuning, so that includes adjustments to exotics, plus there are a handful of other updates that we've got to round up today. So if you guys do find this one useful, help us out on the channel by hitting subscribe. We're slowly working our way towards 600,000 subs. Who knows, if Bungie go a couple of weeks without a significant drama, maybe we'll get there one day. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. First up, live game updates here. Bungie say based on player feedback, we've disabled the grappler modifier in all portal activities, and in a future update the modifier will return only as a selectable option when customizing activities. Of course, grappler is a double-edged sword. In some situations it's really nice to have in terms of traversal, but having it fixed to a loadout for the entirety of an activity certainly gets annoying, so that's a positive. Otherwise, they say, while we continue to investigate reports that the double bonus focus modifier may not correctly be rewarding players as expected, we've swapped the portal activity bonus to the score multiplier accelerator for the remainder of the week. So just keep that in mind. There will not be the double bonus drops that were advertised at the start of the week for the remainder of this week. Otherwise, they say, we have additionally made a change so that the event modifier can be toggled off in the boon and event modifiers menu, and that will allow players to freely select what modifiers they apply to their activities even when a featured event is active. The good thing about this moving forward is that it avoids a situation like we had last week where some players were locked out of Guardian Rank 8 because of the whole famine modifier thing, so that should be a useful change for the future. Otherwise, they say to mitigate PS4 and 5 console crashes, we've temporarily swapped the appearance of the Gladius Mark armor ornament for Titans. That's because that set was actually causing crashes for PlayStation users, and they say the change will be reverted once we're able to release a full fix for the issue in an upcoming patch. So that's the live game stuff, but in terms of portal and progression updates, Bungie made a start talking about this yesterday, and they did recognise that based on player feedback, they revised their approach to balancing progression, as we believe the previous approach was too conservative, and their announced nerfs last week would actually work against their goals of improving progression. To be clear, we believe these changes were the wrong call. So they're basically saying, yes, we messed up. Some of it may actually be a management issue, some of these changes could have been in the works many weeks ago, before they really even had feedback about a lot of the systems in Edge of Fate. And it led to a situation where one week Bungie say progression is too slow and we're going to try and change it, and then the following week announcing nerfs for certain things. A bit of a lack of direction, arguably, but they appear to be trying to correct course based on the changes they spoke about in the TWID yesterday. Players did ask, what about the general power climb though, outside of just the final 50 levels? And DMG said increasing Prime Engram rates will help to increase power drops as you climb. I'd almost entirely forgot that we actually do get primes through the general power climb. And I hope that that part will actually be kind of potent because, of course, that also is chances to get gear at +1 higher tier than what you're actually generally getting. And I've argued many times that I think that is a really good way to actually improve progression in general, because it's essentially a softer version of what Solstice did, where we started getting tier 4 and 5 stuff early. We'll have to see how those drops actually feel, but Bungie said any activities with bonus drops have a potential for any of the bonus drops to be a prime. On top of that though, they've said the team does have more improvements planned, and the climb from 2 to 300 is hard to approach, as well as the climb from 3 to 400, but in some different ways. He finishes by saying we can expect more details in the future, so it's not clear whether these specific changes may come with Ash and Iron, or whether we're going to be looking at a bit further down the road. I do think Bungie should be working on getting those implemented as soon as possible. We should keep in mind as well, in terms of Crucible, in September they'll be making some changes for Crucible Ops specifically, with targeted adjustments for early power bands, so they're increasing bonus drop frequency when playing Crucible Ops. That will pair with the changes to Prime Engrams. They're also increasing the amount of score earned on losses, and retuning score thresholds to essentially make earning higher power and gear tier more consistent. They'll also increase power adjusters for PvP between power 10 and 300, and increase chances for Prime Engrams, so Progression from PvP activities will also improve quite a bit by the sounds of it. Otherwise, moving away from progression things, yesterday in the TWID they incorrectly said that the Titan's Void aspect Bastion would have a faster cooldown in PvP, but they highlight this is incorrect and that will actually affect PvE, so they've updated the TWID to reflect it. Players also asked about weapon and exotic armor changes that they mentioned in a previous TWID, and the D2 team said, sorry about that, there was an old version that we planned to talk about in this TWID, but it's a pretty large section and we needed some extra time to finalize it, so we pulled it out and missed that sentence. However, we can expect a full article next week, so in terms of weapon and armor sandbox, we're going to get more details in the next update. The D2 team did add though, we have a round of weapon and armor and ability sandbox changes coming to both PvP and PvE, and to note a list of items on the PvP list that we've been seeing feedback on from players, specifically things that feel oppressive in PvP combat, they will be addressing Graviton Spike, as well as spread shot hand cannons, lightweight throwing knives, and Gambler's Dodge. So if those have been doing your head in, it looks like some changes will be coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and they've said additionally we'll be addressing concerns with Trials of Osiris lobby balancing, and they reveal that this was mistakenly reintroduced with the last update and will be removed. So since Edge of Fate actually dropped, lobby balancing has been back in Trials, which I think players were starting to suspect it was a thing, but Bungie hadn't actually confirmed it, so at least there is confirmation there. It's a shame it didn't drop a couple of weeks ago, but in terms of PvP and sandbox in general, there's going to be a lot more to discuss next week. So those are all of the further updates following on from the TWID yesterday. I know there's still a lot of frustration from players. I think part of that actually stems from the way Bungie have communicated some of the power and progression changes. It doesn't help that we did have that very tone-deaf sound in TWID last week, which followed on from statements about wanting to speed up power progression. It's been a bit sort of hot and cold from Bungie. And of course, as always with Destiny and Bungie updates, they do take time. I think a lot of players would have liked to see quicker iteration than what we have, but I think on the most part, the changes they've outlined for Ash and Iron, especially given that the portal's actually going to expand, there'll be more stuff to play. Overall, it sounds like the game is going to move forward in a positive way, but I appreciate there's a lot more to do. I also appreciate that, on paper, it's difficult to actually get a sense of how this will feel in terms of playing the game over a period of time. So I acknowledge we're totally just going to have to wait and see, but while it's probably taken too long, Bungie seem to be going in the right direction, but you'll have to give me your thoughts down in the comments section. A last couple of mentions right here. If you remember that Gummy Bears codenamed game that Bungie were working on, the studio actually moved the development team over to PlayStation into a group which are referred to as Team LFG, but the Gummy Bears project appears to be entering the pre-alpha stage, hinting that community testing may actually start soon. So it could be that we get another glimpse at something Bungie had been working on for quite some time soon. It's quite bizarre that Bungie seemed to be in sort of a hot mess, while at the same time releasing multiple things for Destiny 2. Marathon is coming up soon. This other multi-year project that Bungie have had may see the light of day shortly as well, but of course under PlayStation's banner. And then there's even the component of Destiny Rising dropping. So a lot of things that Bungie have sort of laid the foundations for are coming to fruition in one capacity or another, despite all of the other bits of drama. Speaking of drama, apparently Marathon's getting its longest playtest through September, with a full 30-day playtest available. And some players have even been contacted via email, being offered a $500 reward for signing in for 30 days and playing for at least an hour a day. So indeed, we should cue the memes about Bungie paying people to actually play Marathon. My word, it's going to be a very interesting few months still, tracking the kind of changes internally at Bungie, these upcoming releases. It's safe to say there is never a dull moment, right? For today though guys, that is what we have to round up. So as always, share your thoughts in the comment section. If you found the video interesting, at least, then a rating below really does help me out. Once again, feel free to hit subscribe and I can keep you up to date with everything related to the game. But otherwise, thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.